This 3D model shows a healthy human stomach within the abdominal cavity. When a partial gastrectomy is indicated, our objective is to execute a safe, tension-free reconstruction known as the Billroth I procedure. The most common clinical indication for selecting this specific method over other gastrectomies is the presence of a benign gastric ulcer. On the left side of this diagram, you see a healthy, mobile duodenum, and on the right, a scarred, narrow duodenal bulb. To proceed safely, the patient's anatomy must match the left side. The duodenum must be wide, highly mobile, and completely free of scarring. If the duodenum is fixed or narrow, pulling the tissue to meet the stomach will put dangerous stress on the sutures. In these cases, you must shift your surgical plan to a Billroth II Polya procedure instead. Once the surgical field is open and the prerequisites are confirmed, your first physical action is to completely free the duodenum. We accomplish this using Kochers' method. You will make a precise incision along the peritoneum on the lateral aspect of the duodenum to carefully mobilize the tissue. Next, we prepare the lesser curve of the stomach. Here, you must measure carefully. Free the omentum strictly up to 2 centimeters proximal to the ulcer, leaving the rest intact. Apply clamps just distal to the pylorus and divide the duodenum between them. The distal cut end is then immediately covered with gauze and set safely aside for the final connection. Notice the placement of the 2 pairs of clamps on this vector outline of the stomach. Applied at a distinct angle, the lower clamp isolates the zone connecting to the duodenum, while the upper clamp defines the resection line 2 centimeters above the ulcer. The exact placement of these angled clamps directly dictates the physical geometry of the remaining stomach, determining whether the entire reconstruction will ultimately fit together. With the stomach transected, we turn our attention to the upper clamped portion. The immediate goal is to close this section and form what is clinically termed a new lesser curvature. The initial closure requires an over and over stitch. Notice how the suture directly incorporates the upper surgical clamp before the clamp itself is removed. As you fully withdraw that upper clamp, you will carefully and gradually tighten the initial stitch to draw the raw edges securely together. To protect this layer, apply a secondary seromuscular stitch. This step invaginates the first layer, folding it inward to finalize the new curvature. Now we prepare for the anastomosis. Bring the distal cut end of the stomach and the preserved duodenal stump together. You must verify that these 2 edges meet naturally, with absolutely zero tension. By constructing a secure, invaginated new lesser curvature, we have reduced a massive open resection into a structured, manageable opening that perfectly matches the diameter of the duodenal stump. Here, the stomach and duodenum are aligned. We apply a loose, back-and-forth seromuscular stitch across the posterior walls. These are tightened in a strict sequence, seriatim, drawing the layers into direct contact. Finally, a continuous all-coat suture loops through every layer, uniting the anterior walls. To complete the seal, apply a final anterior seromuscular stitch to the front of the viscera, mirroring the reinforcement on the back. This highlights the upper corner, where the new lesser curvature meets the circular anastomosis. This specific junction represents the highest vulnerability for a postoperative leak. You must also remain vigilant for one complication during resection. If the ulcer adheres to the pancreas, dissect it carefully without opening the stomach. If you suspect malignancy, you must excise a portion of the pancreas along with the stomach wall. Meticulous layer-by-layer suturing and intense focus at that critical upper corner junction are the definitive steps required to prevent catastrophic post-operative leaks. With a secure, tension-free Billroth I reconstruction complete, the focus immediately shifts to recovery protocols on the ward. As outlined in this flowchart, there are 3 immediate clinical requirements: keeping a nasogastric tube in situ, initiating 2-hourly suction, and providing continuous intravenous infusions. Because the patient's stomach capacity is now drastically reduced, you must instruct them to adhere to a strict diet of small, frequent meals. Over time, as this animation demonstrates, the surgically reduced stomach will gradually expand. It physically adapts its outer contour to accommodate greater volume. By combining precise intraoperative technique with structured postoperative care, the altered anatomy is given the specific support it needs to heal, adapt, and eventually return to normal digestive function. This diagram shows the objective of the Billroth II gastrectomy, safe resection of the distal stomach, indicated by the dashed line, bypassing the duodenum. Removing this section reroutes the GI tract, sending digestion directly into the jejunum through a newly created gastrojejunal anastomosis. Before making an incision, your team needs two things: a deep familiarity with the vascular anatomy of the upper gastrointestinal tract, and a sterile field fully prepared with occlusion and Peyer's crushing clamps. The procedure itself breaks down into 6 distinct phases. Keep in mind throughout that absolute mastery over the duodenal stump closure is the single greatest factor in preventing a fatal postoperative leak. Step 1 is access. Make a 20-centimeter right upper paramedian or midline incision. Once inside, thoroughly inspect the stomach, duodenum, and surrounding viscera to confirm the exact pathology before proceeding. Next, we mobilize the stomach. This diagram highlights the precise avascular area in the gastrocolic omentum. Puncture this window to the left of the left gastroepiploic vessels to begin detaching the greater omentum from left to right. Working left to right reduces adhesions. As you separate the greater omentum using successive pairs of artery forceps, isolate and divide the left gastroepiploic vessels and 1 or 2 short gastric vessels between ligatures. This is a critical hazard zone. You are working in a tight left-sided space. Exercise extreme caution here when dividing the short gastric vessels to avoid damaging the highly vascular splenic capsule. Now switch your attention to the lesser omentum. Identify, isolate, and divide the right gastric vessels just above the pylorus. Gradually detach the lesser olentum moving left, but stop the dissection right before you reach the left gastric artery. We will handle that later. This deliberate vessel-by-vessel mobilization ensures the stomach is entirely free. You are setting up a tension-free resection while fully maintaining the perfusion of the surrounding organs. With the stomach mobilized, we move to the duodenum. Dissect the posterior surface of the first part of the duodenum away from the pancreas, ensuring you free it at least 1 centimeter distal to the ulceration. This diagram illustrates exactly why that 1 centimeter margin is necessary. You must navigate around 2 major anatomical danger zones here: the common bile duct and the hepatic artery. Both must be identified and preserved. Apply 2 occlusion clamps side by side at the proposed section line. Separate the area with mops. Switch on your sucker machine and divide the duodenum between the clamps. Immediately suction the open end to prevent intestinal juice from contaminating the abdomen. Now we secure the stump. Begin with a conventional all-coats through-and-through suture, followed by a seromuscular Lembert suture. This second layer completely invaginates the mucous membrane. Finally, bury the inverted stump beneath the local peritoneum, catching the ligated vessel stumps and the anterior duodenal wall. This reinforced seal acts as your ultimate firewall against a catastrophic postoperative leak. Elevate the stomach using the clamp to tense the left gastric vessels. Feel for the artery's pulsation about 2 to 3 centimeters below the cardia, then doubly clamp, divide, and ligate it. With the vessels secured, select your line of transection based on the required resection amount. Next, locate an avascular area in the transverse mesocolon just to the left of the middle colic vessels. Make an opening here and draw the proximal loop of the jejunum upwards through it. Position the jejunal loop comfortably alongside the stomach. Align the proximal portion of the jejunum with the lesser curvature and the distal portion with the greater curvature. Apply an occlusion clamp across the stomach and another to the antimesenteric fold of the jejunum. Unite their adjacent surfaces with a Lembert seromuscular suture. Then apply your Peyer's crushing clamp to the stomach, exactly 1.5 centimeters distal to that suture line. Push all other abdominal contents back inside and cover them. Divide the stomach proximal to the crushing clamp and incise the jejunum. Activate your surgical suction immediately to clear away visceral fluid and prevent contamination. At this stage, some surgeons opt for the Finsterer valvular anastomosis technique. This involves partially closing the upper portion of the stomach opening, directing the path of food exclusively into the efferent loop of the jejunum. Whether using that variation or proceeding normally, strict execution of the classical 4-layer anastomosis is what guarantees long-term patency and restores stable digestive function. Once the anastomosis is fully closed, gently draw the entire connection downward through the opening you made earlier in the transverse mesocolon. Take your interrupted catgut stitches and fix the margins of the mesocolon opening directly to the stomach wall. This fixation line must be exactly 1 centimeter proximal to the anastomosis. Do not overlook this anchoring step. Failing to secure this junction accurately leaves the patient vulnerable to internal small bowel herniation and jejunal kinking, which would immediately undo the success of the entire operation. This diagram illustrates our final anatomical state. The distal stomach is removed and the duodenum successfully bypassed. Before closing, verify 3 critical connections. Confirm the duodenal stump is invaginated, ensure the gastrojejunal anastomosis is tightly sealed, and check the transverse mesocolon is securely tacked. With the reconstruction verified, proceed to your final hemostasis checks. Complete the standard surgical count and perform a routine abdominal closure. A successful Billroth II procedure demands 2 things in equal measure: aggressive, decisive resection of the pathology and meticulous anatomical reconstruction. Together, they safely restore the patient's digestive function and quality of life.
If you found this video informative, please like and share, comment what you would like to see next, and subscribe to the channel to get notified about future informative videos.